Barney Frank is back with us, I'm glad to say, on the club. One of the better-known legislators on Beacon Hill. Barney, your attitudes on the Hill any more progressive than elsewhere? It doesn't seem that any legislation that I know of has ever been passed dealing with gay rights of the gay community.
No, nothing's been passed. On the other hand, every year the bills have done better. This year, the votes were clearly there in the Senate to pass a bill preventing discrimination against gay people in the public service. And we were 3 votes off in the House. Now, that's every year it's better. The gay community has become a good, sophisticated lobbying force. And it's an uphill fight, but the hill gets smaller every year. In terms of attitudes, I think I'd make a couple of points. In the first place, without question, if we had had a secret ballot on this issue, it would have passed the legislature. I think the legislators at this point are more enlightened than a lot of the constituents, because, in part, people like Elaine herself and people in the mass caucus for gay legislation have broken down some stereotypes that people have had. A lot of people have known gay people only in some kind of stock comic stereotype fashion. That's the harm stereotypes too. People think they're the reality. So that's been overcome. The second thing I'd point out is age. What we've gotten is not so much a conversion process, although there's been some of that. It is that the newer people are more sophisticated here than the younger people, than the older people. In Boston, for instance, in the Boston delegation voted heavily pro-gay rights, and the break point was 40. That is, we got almost all the legislators under 40, and we lost most of the legislators over 40. And that's encouraging in that sense. It shows, I think, a trend in that
the younger the legislator, the
more open and less bigoted.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me what the bills are that have been attempted to be passed. One is
Well, there are 3. One is really not so necessary, to be honest. There's a bill that we've had that would legalize private sex acts, what people do in the bedroom. The Supreme Court of Massachusetts has already, in effect, done that. The Supreme Court has made a revolutionary decision that policemen with pistols ought not to knock down your door, and if 2 people are in bed, it used to be in Massachusetts, by the way, illegal for any 2 people to have sex with each other if they were not married to each other. That is, 2 unmarried 40-year-olds of opposite sexes couldn't get excessively friendly without being, at least theoretically, in danger of arrest. Now, cardiac arrest is the only problem that you're facing. You're getting too sexual, but you're safe from the cops. The next bill would prevent discrimination in the private sector. That is, it would say that private businesses can't discriminate. Now, we're having trouble getting that one passed because we've got a terrible problem in Massachusetts and other states, New York, Ohio. The business community has latched onto a good thing. Anytime anybody announces that we're going to try and prevent discrimination or control pollution or tax something, the business community gets up and announces that they are all moving to New Hampshire instantly.
Yeah.
And therefore, you cannot get anything done. We've tried to get legislation, for instance, to ban discrimination against handicapped people who can otherwise do the job. And in fact, the business community gets up and says, hey, we can go to New Hampshire and throw cripples down the stairs. So if you try and make us be nice to them, we'll leave. That's harassment. So that's made it difficult to deal with the gay issue in the private sector. We have gotten very close, as I've said, to passing a bill which says that gay men and lesbian women should be allowed to work for government without regard to their sexual preferences. I think in a couple of years that's going to pass. The trend line is clearly in that direction.
Would that include teachers, cops, and fire?
It didn't include teachers because they're in a separate part of the law. Ultimately, it will. It would include cops and firemen and everybody else. It doesn't include teachers. We didn't exclude teachers when we drafted the bill. It's just that the part of the law we were amending, the civil service law, doesn't cover teachers, and you just try to do one thing at a time legislatively. Once we've done one, then we can presumably go after the other.
It takes a long time. I think that one of the things that Barney clearly knows is that there are attitudes on the Hill that exist, but there's also attitudes that exist out in the public at large. And how do we go about changing those attitudes, Barney?
Well, it's tonight is one of the ways, just for people to see. I think one of the most important things is for people to see and meet gay people and to understand that gay people are people and that the stereotypes they've had are not accurate.
Do not have horns.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not in any greater percentage than anybody else. We're just saying that in fact, except for the labeling on sexual preference, there is no real difference. Secondly, it's the kind of advocacy that people have been doing, and I think that's been helpful. And the gay groups themselves have gone out and they've spoken and they've mobilized, and it does seem to me to be improving. What happens is that the bill passed the House the first day, and then the Boston Globe, as it had to do as a newspaper, put the story on the front page and published a roll call. And all the animals came out from under their rocks and called up people and screamed, And they managed to switch enough legislators so that what was a 2-vote victory became a 3-vote defeat.
Elaine and I were talking before we started. Would you clarify for me what she raised about what these bills would mean to an employer, private or public, if they were passed? It doesn't mean they have to go out and actively
No, there's no affirmative action.
hire 10 lesbians.
Absolutely. There is no affirmative action provision here. That's a separate issue. Affirmative action is an important doctrine in some areas. It's not what people are seeking here. All they say is if you're an employer, if you want to fire someone, it has to be for a good reason, or you cannot refuse to hire or fire or deny a promotion to someone because he or she is gay. It doesn't mean that you have to let men wear dresses or women wear football helmets. It doesn't in any way stop you from having a dress code. The Supreme Court has upheld the right of an employer to say, we want a reasonable dress code. Cops can't have long hair in Framingham, etc. The bill doesn't deal with that. It's really just a simple bill that you get kind of, it's bad enough to lose in the legislature. It's even worse when you lose to something that ought to be taken for granted. What's even worse is some of the impossible clowns that you lose to, and that's really rather annoying personally. But the bill simply says that your own sexual preference is irrelevant. It's not an absolute guarantee, by the way, because a sophisticated bigot, as we have found out, can still be a racist, can still be a sexist, and can still be a homophobe. There is no guarantee here, but at least it tries to establish some ground rules.
I guess we have time. I'm curious on something I just thought of. Judge Bonham, do you think he would have been removed if he hadn't been attending the meeting of a gay group?
No, but he also, I think, wouldn't have been removed. I should tell you that I didn't vote on that issue because I spoke to the meeting that he attended. And it seemed to me that I had this choice of either voting to remove him because he listened to me, which might be grounds, or on the other hand, say that it's okay to listen to me and therefore I couldn't remove him. So, but I think he wouldn't have been if it hadn't been the gay group, but there were other factors as well. I think if he hadn't taken the car, any one of several things might have saved him, but he was the point of something
on it, but it wasn't the...
Okay. Barney, thank you. Barney's going to be back with us tomorrow night. Stick around.